opportunity to find a seat, please go ahead and make your way towards the front. I promise you, nobody bites, so feel free to connect with somebody, meet somebody new. Make sure you find a good seat. Try not to be hidden behind the pillars, and let's get today started. Welcome to the 2025 Plank Center Plank Summit of this year. We are so excited to welcome all of you from different schools, different professions, all around to center around the conversation today that is being hosted and led by the Plank Center for Leadership and Public Relations. My name is Eric Winkfield. I am by day the Vice President and Group Manager at M-Booth, as well as I'm the Head of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for them and M-Booth Health, our sister agency. Today you are all in for a very special treat. This program has been curated to really pique your curiosity, talk about what the industry looks like today, how is it shaping up for the future, but most importantly, hear from all of you all. So please take notes, ask questions. Everybody who is coming up today is really here to be a resource to you all, so please take full advantage of the day. Our first speaker is somebody who is incredibly special to the Plank Center. She is the woman who makes everything come together. She's the one who gets many of the calls from the board members, but she's also our shero who makes sure that we get it done right, and we make sure we do it with an intentionality that truly lives in the spirit of our namesake of the center, Betsy Plank. So with that, I would like to introduce Dr. Carla Gower, our Executive Director.
Thank you, and welcome. And Eric, because he introduced me, I had this little introduction thing written out, so he took half my page already. So as Eric was saying, we're bringing together today students from Canada, United States, obviously, South America, as well as emerging leaders and young professionals and industry professionals, all to explore how mentorship, authenticity, and values-driven leadership can build stronger organizations, more resilient communities, and a profession prepared for what comes next. But before we do that, I want to take a few minutes to talk to you about the center and how we got to where we are, because this year is our 20th anniversary as a center, and we're very proud of that. As some of you may be aware, and I'll make sure my little thing here works. Yes, it does. Whoops. Here we are. As some of you may be aware, the Plank Center's mission is to advance and empower the next generation of emerging leaders in the profession. And we do that in order to honor our namesake's vision, her vision of leadership as service and mentorship as legacy. So I want to begin by talking a little bit about Betsy Plank, so you will understand where we are. She was born in Tuscaloosa, Alabama in 1924, as she liked to say, in the shadow of the University of Alabama. During the Depression, her family moved north, and they settled in Pittsburgh. That area. She returned to Tuscaloosa for her senior year of university, and she's a 1944 graduate of Alabama. After graduation, she returned to Pittsburgh and worked in radio for a little while until her then husband moved them to Chicago, where she knew no one. At the time, radio was really running scared of TV because it was becoming just very popular at that time, and she had real trouble finding work. And then somebody brokered an introduction for her to Duffy Schwartz, who was the Midwest director of the Ad Council at the time. And she was very influential in Chicago's communication industry. So after meeting, this is Betsy and Duffy. So after meeting Betsy, Duffy told her that there was a public relations opening in a small firm that focused on fundraising campaigns for nonprofits. And she said, go over and get the job. It's in public relations. And Betsy said, I don't even know what public relations is. And she goes, that's okay. You're hungry, aren't you? Go over, get the job, come back, and I'll tell you what to do. So Betsy did. She came back. Duffy handed her 5 single typewritten pages with a to-do list, what she needed to do, plus 4 boxes, arm-length boxes of index cards, 3x5 cards, with the name and contact information of every person who was anyone in Chicago's communications industry. And for the next 5 months, Betsy then was mentored and guided by Duffy. So as all good mentees do, Betsy, of course, outgrew her mentor, but they remained lifelong friends. And At her funeral in 1991, Duffy's funeral in 1991, Betsy said that she had learned from Duffy to be kind to hungry young strangers who were looking for employment. It's one of the only ways she would allow me to repay and acknowledge her debt of gratitude for everything that Duffy had done for her. Duffy had given her all of these lessons, which Betsy took to heart, and she went on to mentor countless students over the years herself. And some of them are in this room. I'm looking at you, Kevin, for one for sure. And of course, she went on to have a good career in public relations as well. She worked for Edelman through the 1960s, from 1960 to 1973. She rose to executive vice president and worked very closely with Dan Edelman. And then in 1973, she moved to the corporate side and went to join AT&T in New York for a short time, and then she came back to her beloved Chicago and worked with Illinois Bell until her retirement in 1990. She is today known as the First Lady of Public Relations, as we like to say, for her numerous firsts in the profession, especially in the area of leadership positions in professional associations. She worked really hard to promote public relations as a profession. She believed it to be a very proud and noble profession. In 1963, she became the first woman president of the Publicity Club of Chicago. And as she liked to say, when the sky did not fall when she was elected, then she went on 5 years later to become the first woman president of the Chicago chapter of PRSA. And most notably, in 1973, she became the first woman president of PRSA nationally in its 25-year history. Through her interaction with PRSA, she grew to love students. She didn't have any children of her own, and so all of you would be her kids. That's how she thought of you. She was fiercely loyal and supportive of students. Under her leadership at PRSA, PRSSA became an independent organization in its own right in terms of leadership, and she was very proud of that fact. She also started the Champions for PRSSA because she wanted to get a closer connection between PRSA members and PRSSA members. And she sought always to bring together professionals, educators, and students for the benefit of the students. And you'll notice today, through all the events we have had, we always bring professionals, students, and educators together. So as I said, she had graduated from UA, but then she lost touch with the university and with Tuscaloosa until 2000, when our then dean, Cully Clark, called her up and said, hey, why don't you come to campus and visit? So she did. She didn't even know we had a PR program, but she was very excited by what she saw and encouraged, and she continued to visit. And then in 2005, I should say, Cully called her up and said, I want to meet with you in Chicago. So he met with her in this building. She was a member here at that time, in the room where we're going to have dinner tonight, which is on the 6th floor. And he said, I have a proposal for you. I want to establish a center in your name devoted to public relations. And Betsy had once lamented that she had no legacy. She didn't have any children. She had never written any books, and she felt she had nothing tangible to leave behind her. And here he was offering this very tangible legacy for her, with something that would be uniquely hers. And so at a memorial event in 2010 to celebrate Betsy's life, after she died, Maria Russell, who was a member of the inaugural Board of Advisors, said of her, she dreamed into the future. She knew that public relations would never evolve, never be a true profession, never reach its full potential in service to organizations and to society and to the democratic process without a collective commitment to education, to mentoring, to lifelong learning, and to developing and supporting new leaders. And that is what the Plank Center then does. It brings to life her vision of leadership as service and mentorship as legacy. The center works to empower and advance the next generation of public relations leaders. So I want to just talk briefly about some of the initiatives that we have. We've had them over the years, but one of our newest is Emerge, the Plank Center and the Grossman Group Leadership Academy. It's a year-long program, virtual leadership curriculum, and it also allows students to interact with Plank Center board members and industry professionals. The experience is designed to equip you with the skills necessary to not just compete, but also do very well and succeed and lead in the profession. And want to thank Dr. David Grossman for his generous gift that allowed the eMERGE program to come to life. 11 of the first cohort of 21 are here. Do you want to just briefly stand? You're here? Yay. We celebrated them last night, their graduation from their program. And at Edelman, we had a reception. Thank you to Edelman for hosting us there. And then this year's cohort is of 25 students, and you're all here. So can you stand and be recognized? And as I said, we paired them with mentors. If anyone was a mentor last year and is going to be again this year, or will be this year, please acknowledge yourself. I know there are two back there, more than two back there. Thank you. If what Betsy would say if she were here, you light up my sky. So, we also conduct research into leadership in public relations. Dr. Bruce Berger was our first director of the center, and he was one of the first academics to really start researching what does it mean to be a PR leader, what does PR leadership look like. This year we conducted a study to determine the leadership gaps that young professionals and emerging leaders have in the profession today, what gaps are there in those skills, and then how can we address those gaps moving forward. Our Emerging Leader Committee, which several of you are here today, have been holding pop-ups around the country. The pop-ups are designed to support leadership development among young people in public relations in these various cities. That gives them a chance to connect in person and share stories and network. Thanks to Betsy Plank's generosity, we also at UA host the John Jack Coton Distinguished Lecture Series. This year we hosted Cy Wakeman, a best-selling author in leadership, and she spoke on campus, and we also then streamed that live to several pop-ups around the country. She spoke on fearless leadership, embracing discomfort and accountability to achieve greatness. And of course, we celebrate mentorship. Today we'll be recognizing 5 wonderful mentors for all they've done over the years for everyone. As Betsy would say, you're never too young or too old to mentor others. And we know from our research that mentorship is crucial for leadership development, but rarely do we take the opportunity or have the chance to publicly thank our mentors. And so we have this opportunity this evening to recognize these amazing individuals. So today's summit, which is grounded in Betsy's enduring legacy, looks ahead to how communication in these turbulent times can chart a new path forward through ethical leadership and bold ideas. But first, we're going to take a look at Chicago as a city of resilience and invention, mirroring the journey of communications today. And I think Eric is going to come up to take us into the next session.
Fantastic. Can we give Dr. Gow another hand? Great. So one additional group I want to make sure we highlight and recognize is a group that is truly a partner to the Board of Directors, the Board of Advisors of the Plank Center, and that is the folks who keeps us honest about what will really resonate, but also how we really intentionally provide relevant, but also impactful resources to you all. And that is our Emerging Leader Committee. And the folks who are here from the Emerging Leader Committee, can you please stand and be recognized as well? Want to make sure we give a thank you to you as well. Thank you for your service and your partnership and all the things that we do for the center as well. You make a lot of things go on as well, so thank you for that. So today is all about you all. You're going to be hearing from speakers, and not just the people talking at you, but I really hope you all take the time to ask them questions and what you're curious about as well. But first, we're going to talk about a city that we're all in right now, which is Chicago. By show of hands, how many of this is your first time in the city of Chicago? Okay, good stuff. There's a reason, as you heard from Dr. Gower, of like the significance of the city of Chicago to the Plank Center, but also we see Chicago as just a learning and life classroom, and we're bringing up a dear partner of mine, my partner in crime, Grant Deity, who is the chairman of the center, to kind of walk you all through what that looks like and what next steps are. So can we go to the next slide? Oh, and give Grant a hand. Come here.
Okay, you guys, you are in this room today, you are a storyteller, and we're going to honor more of them later this evening. And one of the great privileges of my role at Zeno over the last 2+ decades is I've met a lot of great storytellers, but a couple of years ago I met what I thought is probably the best one, and that is Sherman Dilla Thomas, who is our guest here today. So Dilla's going to come up here, and we're going to do a little bit of a Q&A with him. So Dilla, come on up. I know you all got your phones with you, and you saw that segment, but if you want to, like, while you're sitting there on TikTok or Instagram, it's the numeral, Figga, F-I-G-G-A, Dilla, Figga Dilla, and we're going to have a talk together here for you guys.
Hey, y'all quiet. Y'all so quiet. Yeah. Couple corrections. That's old. I actually have 60 million views. Thank you very much. Excuse me. And then, so I made a show. It's called You Don't Know Shy, right? It's about the history of Chicago trying to myth bust. It's on YouTube. And what I found out is that shows produced on YouTube, if they meet a certain set of criteria, can be nominated for Emmys. And so I'm like, well, you know, I can either spend this $250 on another pair of Jordans, or I can spend the $250 and get for the submission. I didn't think I had a chance in hell. And anyway, about 2 Saturdays ago, I won an Emmy. Just sit that right there.
Yeah, and I know a handful of cool people in this city, but my 15-year-old daughter, when I told her that I knew and was even able to text with Dilla, that gave me a new status symbol inside the house. So Dilla, thank you for coming and
my pleasure.
being here today. You guys, we're going to do about 5 or 6 questions, and then I'm going to take 3 from the audience. The 3 people that we choose to come up, when you ask your question, you come up here and take a selfie with Dilla, okay? So in the back of your heads, have that ready. Dilla, was being a historian or a storyteller, is this a side of you that was always there? What kind of kid were you growing up?
Definitely. You guys have that friend that's full of useless information, and you try not to open that door for them because they're gonna go fully down it, and all you wanted to know was you wonder why they make hot sauce like it is, and then now they're telling you where the peppers grow, and so that was me my whole life, and hyper focused on Chicago though. So being raised here, my dad was a cop here. I had so many Chicago questions, and so I would perpetually research Chicago, and I would say, being a storyteller it comes with that, right? Because once you learn a great story, you want to tell it to somebody, and if you don't get good at the recollection of it, then don't nobody want to hear the thing that you just spent all day learning. So I think the two got worked on throughout my youth.
What kind of a child were you? What were you like growing up?
See, my wife ain't here to get me in trouble. I was a mix kind of, I was rambunctious. I was bad. I was very exploratory. I can't tell you how many times I had to call home because I was lost in somebody's suburb because I just wanted to see how far Halsted would take me or how far Western would take me, right? But I was very inquisitive and, a ferocious reader for sure.
Yeah. You often spotlight people, places, neighborhoods that are often overlooked. Do you feel like the content that you have created has developed a positive impact? Are there any stories, did you spotlight a particular neighborhood or a business or a person that after you did that it was life-changing or positive for them?
Yes, so life-changing is huge. I don't know if I'm changing lives, but a number of times, right? For instance, Chicago Police Department was unaware that Chicago is home to the first ever woman to be a police officer. And so it was being miscredited to some lady out of San Francisco. And shout out the lady in San Francisco, but the first woman to be a cop happened here in Chicago. And so, I did the research and I vetted it and, got first person sources and ran it by a bunch of other way smarter people than me. And they confirmed hey, you're right. This all lines up. Chicago did create the first ever woman police officer in the country, right? And so what did that immediately mean to women who are cops today? What did that immediately mean for women who want to become cops, right? You get that sense of civic pride, like, oh, I'm getting ready to do this in a city that did it first. But also, I do neighborhood tours, which I hope to see some of you guys on my neighborhood tours. And there's a West Side neighborhood called North Lawndale, which from 1968 to 2004, the city of Chicago invested $0. There was no convenience stores, no shopping districts. The Holman Square development is the first development to take place over there in, 60 years damn near. So I started doing these tours, and I take people to see where Dr. King lived. We go by church that used to be a synagogue that the Queen of Romania visited, right? We do all this historical nerdy crap. But a part of every tour I do is we pick a small business, and I make everybody on the bus go in there and spend $10, right? And so I took this Jewish congregation from Skokie, 48 old Jewish grannies on the bus who probably avoid the West Side because the media tells them to avoid the West Side. And anyway, we have this great tour. We go to Be Love Cafe. They enjoy the Bee Stinger tea. It's a great thing. So, 6 weeks goes by. I'm taking another group of black high school kids on a West Side tour. We go in to get coffee. Who's standing behind me but 3 Jewish grannies? Like, hey, we come here every Saturday now. This is so great. But what does that mean to that store and to that business owner that is now having access to customers that are not in their immediate area? And that's happened so many times. I've taken groups on tours through a neighborhood called Roseland. And I got invited to the city of Chicago's New Year's Eve party, who they have catering the donuts, but the store that I took them to on the tour that nobody even knew existed. So I would say that kind of stuff is changing spaces and creating value in spaces where people may not have saw the value at first.
Old-fashioned donuts.
Yeah, for sure.
Special place. Is there one or two pieces of content that you made that like really started to pop off that really you feel like put you on the map? If you think back, is there one?
Yeah, for sure. And that's a great question, particularly for the young folks in here, because sometimes you'll put your back into something, right? I make historical content. And so I'm like going through the newspaper archives, the encyclopedia. I'm trying to find that one picture of that lady from 1874, hoping that she took a picture. And then I'm vetting the story to make sure it's correct. And it takes me 5 hours to make a 1 minute, 30-second reel that's historically accurate. And then 5,000 people are watching. And I'm like, damn. And then I made a piece of content about this thing called dibs in Chicago, where if you live on a block that has single-family homes, let's say it's a heavy snow, well, then you got to shovel your car out the parking lot, right? Parking spots. But once you finish shoveling and you move your car, you then go in your house and you get a baby stroller or an ironing board or whatever you can find, and you put that in your parking spot. So that way, if someone comes down the street, they know that this spot is called for. And in Chicago, we call that dibs, right? I got dibs on that spot. Now, let's say you're a jerk face and you move my cone. Well, my neighbors are going to come out and we're going to rebury your car in snow. And then now you can shovel it out and it will then belong to you. So anyway, I told that story as casual as can be. Went to sleep, woke up, a million views, WGN News want to talk to me. It was crazy. So I would say that particular piece of content and the one I did about Lower Wacker Drive, all right, are the ones that kind of propelled me. Like, forget the fact that he knows the first open heart surgery happened in Chicago or the first woman to pass the bar did it in Chicago. He knows about mild sauce. And so, right, those kind of things are what brought larger audiences, but then they stayed to watch the other stuff, and I thought that was cool.
Yeah, dibs in Chicago is a real thing, that's for sure.
Oh man,
Dilla,
don't take nobody's spot.
Dilla, we have people from all over the world in here today. You've been traveling internationally. How do people in other parts of the world receive your content and I remember the last time we got together, you were talking about, I think, a trip you were doing to Japan.
Yep. I would say it's like generationally, older folks kind of find me on Facebook and YouTube, and it's sometimes, I guess I'm happy to be doing this work, but it feels sad in the moment because contemporarily how people talk about Chicago is usually like, oh, I thought Chicago was this place where all the grandmas got Uzis, and in order to graduate kindergarten, you got to join a gang and win a knife fight. And so they say, hey, the stuff you make makes me think about Chicago different. Makes me want to visit Chicago. And so that's been the case internationally. But then also, Chicago is so connected to the world, right? Particularly through our music. And so if you're in Europe anywhere, there's going to be some rave, and they're going to be playing EDM. But they're very well aware that that comes from house music created here in Chicago, right? Or, you know, if you're in Paris and you're around some young folks, they're going to say, we're not from 63rd, right? But that's just them letting me know that they're tapped into our music, you know what I mean? And so I've been received, like I say, most of the time though, it's myth busting. I want to come to Chicago, but I heard this, right? We've been to New York and it was dirty, and we saw rats everywhere, and we've been to LA, and even though it said 2 miles away, it took 45 minutes to get there. But we hear all this stuff about Chicago, and so, we have those conversations when I'm international.
Any hot projects you're working on that you can talk about right now?
Well, yeah, this YouTube show that I won this piece of hardware on, it got picked up by the local Fox station. So Fox 32 Chicago picked it up for a season, and then we'll keep going. Thank you.
Terrific.
I'm the brand ambassador of the DuSable Black History Museum. And on the one hand, it's like the pride of my life because it's the oldest independent Black History Museum in America. On the other side, though, I see what you guys are getting ready to be up against. You're getting ready to come in with these big brain ideas, and the future is yours. And you're going to walk into institutions, and they are not speedboats, they're yachts. So you can't turn them and move them the way that you see fit because, they're anchored in old ways. And old ways are great. But we all need to remember that the old ways at one point was a new way. It was something weird that they were like, oh my God, you mean you're going to put expiration date on those bottles of milk? Isn't that going to waste money? Now, why do we got to stop the line to stamp milk with dates, right? Like it seems so damn foreign to them. And now think about like what that does. And so I'm proud of that work. I'm proud to kind of help them, unanchor and be a little bit more movable. And then I'm constantly in a perpetual kind of pitch state with longer Chicago stories. I'm writing 2 books. My Raggedy Kid graduates from high school. The other one graduates from college, so I'm very excited about that. And I got the Jordan Black Cats early, so I'm happy about that.
Exciting. Dilla, I know that we have some young content creators here in the audience today. Any advice for our young content creators here?
Oh, man. Tons of advice, but I just stick to what's most important. It ain't how many people are watching. It's who, right? I've been making content now for 4 years. Maybe 10 videos on their own have hit 1 million. I kind of sit in that 200,000 to 700,000 kind of, which to the world, right, ain't viral. But again, it ain't how many, it's the who. So it might not be 2 million people watching my video, but Danny Wirtz, who's the owner of the Blackhawks, is, right? Michael Reinsdorf, who's the owner of the Bulls, is, right? Governor J.B. Pritzker of the governor of Illinois is, right? I see them liking and commenting. So let that be the thing that inspires you. You may not hit the numbers, and the other thing is perspective. If 2,000 people see your video on TikTok, you're like, oh man, they shadow banned me. If it was 2,000 people in this room listening to you talk, your stomach would be in knots. So keep that in mind as you're creating content, and don't let the numbers be the thing that stops you. And then also don't let your friends ruin it either, because anytime you start doing something that you're passionate about, here come one of your raggedy friends wanting you to monetize it and make it a big, you know what I mean? Like trying to, keep the love in it, and the opportunities will come.
Okay, you guys, it's time for our 3 questions. Who's got one here for Dilla?
Boom, she was first.
Who's first? Okay, right here. Okay, I want to say name, where you're from, and then you can come up here and grab your quick selfie with Dilla.
You want me to stand or stay seated?
I think you should stand.
Okay. Hi, my name is Taylin Kane. I'm from North Carolina, but I do live in Chicago. So I heard you talk a lot about art, interacting with museums, music. My question to you is, what sort of artistic intersections do you feel like Chicago should continue to capitalize on through the lens of history to continue to expose people to the overlooked parts of the city?
Man, that is a big brain question right there. um, Chicago's, thank you for that question. I think an example of that iteration of art and culture and history coming together is the embodiment of this lady by the name of Tanika Lewis Johnson. So if you forget my name, that's cool. Do not forget Tanika Lewis Johnson. She's an artist and she uses her art for activism. I'll give you a real quick example. There's this thing called land sale contracts that used to prohibit people from living in certain neighborhoods that allowed for redlining to happen. And so black neighborhoods got less money, stuff, blah, blah, blah. Now it's 2025, and you inherited great granny's house. That was a byproduct of this disinvestment. But Tanika Lewis Johnson believes that instead of a grant to put a sculpture on your corner to beautify the space, then the grant should be fix your windows and tuck point your building and creating beautiful streetscapes that raises your property assessment, that creates equity in your house so you can send a grandbaby to college, also beautifies a space and brings art. And so using the history of how a space was disinvested combined with the funding that's available in the art space with activism is the way that Chicago's going to continue to go forward. And there's a lot of that. We'd be here all day. I can give you 30 examples of people thinking like that. And I think as long as we continue to empower them, we're going to be in good shape.
Good question.
Thank you.
Let's go right here.
Hello, my name's Namika Willis, and I'm originally from Columbus, Ohio, but I go to school in Huntsville, Texas. So the question I have is, as someone who's trying to learn more perspectives, how do you implement cultural competency in your storytelling?
Ooh, great question. So how do I put cultural competency? One, I don't try to negate or shy away from the fact that the perspectives you're gonna get is coming from the eyes of a black dude with dreads and Jordans, right? So it's gonna have that perspective to it, but I don't ever assume that I know more than the person that has the live experience. So it's like the weirdest thing ever. But before I make a video, say about Chinatown, I mean, it's not relevant today, but prior, right? If I'm gonna make a video about Chinatown, it's gonna take me a month because I gotta go to Chinatown. I gotta go to a church that's in Chinatown. I gotta go to the Chinatown Historical Society and see if they got a website, right? I need to inundate myself as best I can before I even fix my mouth to tell their story. And then that's where the cultural competency comes in because I did the homework, right? Right now, the Asian American homies is kicking butt because K-pop Demon Slayers, it's like, oh man, all through my house right now. But before I start to talk about that iteration, I went and learned some stuff, right, about why pop culture is so prevalent in Korea and things of that nature. So do some research about people before you fix your mouth to talk about them, and that'll usually save you from sounding incompetent as it relates to their culture.
Great question
Thank
and
you.
answer. We'll do one more. Okay, right over here, right behind you, Ray.
Thank you. Hi, it's such a pleasure to meet you. My name is Lauren Wayburn, and I'm a part of the 2026 Emerge cohort from Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Yeah.
I admire that you covered the what in your content production in terms of conveying stories to visitations, whether that's attractions in Chicago, people, stores. My question relates specifically to the how. Specifically, would you describe 3 pillars as to how to convey a good story in your eyes?
That's a tough one too. I don't think I've ever even this is some great questions. Y'all pulled all the nerds out the country, huh? Everybody who was cool and smart to just gather them together. Any story I'm going to tell that has anything to do with the past has to have a what does this have to do with today component, right? Because sometimes just regurgitating an old story in the past has nothing to do with now, and so then that's you grandstanding, right? And grandstanding, you can be a ham, but you shouldn't grandstand as a storyteller, right? Because you're not the story. So I'd start with what the hell does this have to do with today? If I can't answer that question, I won't tell that story. The second thing is I try to remain objective in the story. And so people can kind of feel when you're slanted one way or another. I mean, if the story is about why it's wrong to kick puppies, then of course it's okay for you to sound very subjective in that storytelling. But I might be telling a story about a black kid that got jumped in Bridgeport riding his bike, and in fully telling the story, I can't forget the human aspect. The people who jumped on the black kid were probably folks who had that kind of hatred put into them, right? So I have to like tell the story in that manner. I may be personally like, yeah, y'all was bogus for that, but in like retelling of it, it has to feel that I'm objective. And so I would say what it got to do with today, being objective, and then like not hiding your authenticity. So often you want to tell the story and you want to use the voice of the person in the story or the voice of someone else you've heard tell stories. Man, my team was so pissed off I wouldn't change my username from Six Figure Dilla. They're like, hey, you're gonna be on the news and somebody's gonna slip and that F's gonna be an N and then now it's gonna be some trouble. And I'm like, well, that's their problem, not mine, because my username is Six Figure Dilla. And unless the institution is 130 years old, I'm not taking my hat off. And if I gotta wear hard bottom shoes, your Ferragamo is gonna cost more than my Jordan 3s, bro. So I'm gonna wear my Jordan 3s, but I'm gonna be respectful in all of that. So remain you, and I think that's a great way to be a storyteller.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, you guys, Six Figure Dilla on TikTok and Instagram.
All the things.
And then Chicago Mahogany Tours. That is Dilla's tours that he runs in Chicago, and I highly recommend you come back in town as a group or with your families or whatever. Go on there and try to make it happen. Last thing, Dilla, I'm going to ask anybody who wants to kind of squeeze up here. Would you mind? We're going to stand up and could you do a selfie?
Yeah.
And we'll get a quick one of the whole group here with Dilla, and then we're going to let this guy go. But you guys, Sherman Dilla Thomas.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, squeeze in. We'll let Dilla take it. You got your phone?
Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, stand up, guys. Come on, squeeze in if you want to be in it. The good thing Dilla's tall and elevated here.
That's going to be, oh, man. I think I got a bunch of y'all. I mean, even if you're not from Chicago, you're in the greatest city on earth, so Chicago on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Chicago.
Okay, and I didn't take it. Let's try it again. All right, Chicago on 3. Wait, that's my hand. Woo, it's going to be hard. How do y'all do this? I can't get it. Oh, there we go. There we go. Placement. 1, 2, 3. Chicago. All right, I got it.
All right, you guys. Our 3 people who asked questions, let's meet with Dilla on the side here.
Hey, thank y'all. Y'all rock. Don't let old people scare you.
Thanks, Dilla.
All right, y'all. We're gonna take about a 5-minute break. So if you want to grab some sweets
let's
from
leave
the
the
back
Emmy out,
or something
too.
to drink
You know
from the
what I'm
back,
saying?
please go ahead and do
We
that
gotta,
now.
like, put the
We're gonna
Emmy
come
up.
back, but we want people to be back in their seats no later than
Oh, good to meet you.
2:52 or 2:53. Okay.
All right, on. Yeah. I think I just replied. Oh, likewise. Very nice to meet you. Likewise. Yeah, please.
We are so excited for our first panel of the day, being led by not only a dear friend, but a brother in arms, but also a colleague of mine. Literally, Brian and myself, we go back to college. I pray he's not mentioned anything about our college days on the microphone today, but just know it's just really exciting to see how we've grown up in as well. So, Brian, I'll let you go ahead and kick us off today with today's session with the Emerging Leader Committee. Thanks, Brian.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. Really excited to be here. So, we felt like this was a really important conversation to have and one that we're excited to have. Although, I will say a tough act to follow because that was a really cool session. So we're really glad that under Grant's leadership, the Plank Center is able to pull in really, really cool and dynamic speakers like Dilla. So just reflect on that one more time and think, wow, that was cool. But now what we're going to pivot to now is this idea about redefining leadership at the emerging edge. We talked about this on the Plank Center board. We feel like we're in a time where leadership is really often discussed, but today's leadership doesn't come with a playbook. And as emerging leaders aren't just inheriting somebody else's path, they're writing their own. So we thought we'd take some time and have a panel that features members of the Plank Center's Emerging Leaders Committee. We've got 3 of them here. It's not the whole team. They're a great group. But really sit back and reflect on what it means to lead from the middle, like building influence when you don't have senior authority, navigating uncertainty in how your career is shaping up, and also shaping the profession in real time. So this is a conversation where we can really talk about what leadership looks like when you're not yet in charge, but you are deeply aware of your responsibility and your desire to change the game. So first, I'll introduce myself quickly. I'm your moderator. I'm Brian Price. As Eric said, I'm on the board of advisors for the Plank Center, an organization I've known really since my PRSSA days at Northern Michigan University, and I'm honored to represent it. I work at Dry Path Advisors. It's a boutique communications agency specialized in the energy industry after starting my career at Edelman. They weren't in the office we were at last night back then, but a great place to work and launch my career. And then I followed that with a couple of big stints doing corporate communications in-house at a few joints. So I'm also a proud former PRSSA national president, and I've lived in Chicago since I started my career about a dozen years ago. So that's me. You guys aren't sitting in the order that I wrote this in, but I think we're going to be okay. So sitting next to me is Emma Gresser. She is a communications leader at EY, supporting U.S. partnership operation organization that serves more than 3,500 active EY partners. In 4 years at the firm, she's successfully championed internal communications and marketing initiatives across America's talent, global sustainability, and global corporate responsibility sectors. She's a proud graduate of DePaul's PR and advertising program. So I know Emma's thrilled to be back here on Jackson Avenue, just a few blocks from where your journey began. So welcome to Emma. Also with us is Gabby DiCarlo. She's an account manager at Vested, a global communications consulting firm where she specializes in media relations and brand reputation with cryptocurrency, securities, and asset management sectors. Last year, she planned and executed a PR strategy launching one of the first Bitcoin ETFs, the first of its kind in the US, and she represents top names in finance like Bloomberg, DTCC, and more. Gabby was named one to watch by PR News in 2024 and honored this year in PRSA New York's 15 under 35 list. Perhaps least, though, of note, but I'll mention it anyways, when she was a student at Alabama, we were paired up in a mentor match program. So we've had the pleasure of staying in touch for many years now. So give it up for Gabby. And down on the end, we've got Alana Doyle. And Alana is a New York-based communications manager at GoPuff, a leading instant commerce platform where she oversees consumer PR for the company. Alana's developed launch strategies for major names in the industry, major clients that everybody would be excited to work on, like Starbucks, Amazon, and Disney, and has done creative partnerships with amazing talent like Tom Brady, Alex Earl, and Rick Ross. Previously, she worked in media relations team at 2 big-time agencies, Burson and Ketchum. And during her time at Burson, she founded and led Burson's Young Professionals Employee Resource Group to encourage her and her early career colleagues in how to get started. So that's who we've got. It's quite a group. Give it up for Alana. So we're gonna try to start quick and get things going. This first question is first for these three, but it's also for you. So we've got a thing going up here can you just put the QR code in and you built the slide, you should tell them.
Participate, yeah.
Yeah, participate. Yeah. So think about this. If you want to get in right away, you're absolutely encouraged to do so. If you want to take a beat and listen to what our panelists think, you can do it. You can chime in right after. But the first question, I think it's already behind me, but how do you describe leadership in one word? And for you three, you get to explain why with a sentence or two.
Should I go first?
Yeah, do it.
All right. Well, I would describe leadership in one word by saying that you are a catalyst for whatever it is that you're trying to do. So when you're a leader and you have the opportunity, for better or worse, you're a catalyst for whoever it is that you're representing.
That's interesting. I don't know if I could do it in one word. You guys probably haven't met me, but I'm not short-winded. I'm very long-winded. But I think it's really about following. Like, if one of you were to turn your head, everyone will start to turn your head to look where you're looking. Leadership is about, working together and being that one person that's setting the example, and usually everyone else will follow.
Love that. Mine was actually one of the first words on here. I would say advocacy as well. I think that as leaders, especially in the PR industry, it's important that we are advocating for our teams, making sure that the work that they're doing is being seen and valued across the organization. We're advocating for what's right for the business, and of course, we're advocating for what's right for the public too.
Well said. Somebody want to shout out either maybe their favorites or one that you saw here that I don't want to, maybe not surprise you, but like turned your head and really resonated? Let's just shout them out. Nice. Yeah. Well said. Last call. All right, you guys are a little quiet. That's all right. Yeah, there it is. All right, I like that. So taking it back up here, just for you three, tell me a little bit more how you think about or define leadership in your head at this stage in your career, right? We talked about this in the intro. Like you've got some authority, not all of the authority. You've got some influence, not all of the influence. When you think about leadership, what's clicking in your head?
What's clicking in my head? So I actually work in more of a corporate setting. I'm at a Big Four, EY, where it is very difficult to get promoted. It takes a while to move up the ladder as opposed to where I started at a PR agency where I went from intern to account coordinator very quickly. So for 4 years, I've been a supervising associate and now manager at EY. And with that, I kind of had to humble my ego a little bit because it can be difficult at times to sort of make your point to some of the people who have an assistant director title or an associate director title, but still sort of knowing that and having the confidence that my work is great and what I'm doing is going to help whatever the end product is. So being able to give yourself sort of that confidence regardless of your title, I think is really important.
I guess we should just go. I don't even think my mic's on. I'm just going to
Do you want mine?
Yelling. No, it's okay. I'm going to start yelling. I'm sure you guys can all hear me, right? Okay, maybe we'll get louder. Oh, thank you. Guys, sharing is caring. So when I think about, the influence that you have, and I kind of mentioned it, and I said I'm long-winded. I don't really have one specific word. Thinking about where you can start to be a leader even early in your career, and I said if one person turns, people are going to start to turn and look and see where you're looking. You can be a leader on your very first day. So if you are, and everyone's looking at you, so if you are coming in the room and you're coming in smart, you're coming in prepared, the senior people are going to notice that, your peers are going to notice, and then as you move up, everyone else is going to notice. I think the misconception is that there isn't leadership at every level, and that's not true. I think you are the one setting the example, and if you strive to set the best example you can, people are going to naturally follow you. We're human beings, we're monkeys. We like to see one person doing something great and follow in that direction. So I think it's thinking about being a leader, what that looks like, and then just start walking because people are going to follow you.
For me, when I think of leadership at this stage, I really think it's a lot about being a connector. At this stage, you are working and disseminating information from the top down, from senior leaders to your team. You're working with business partners or clients, but then you're you're also really helping to like nurture and grow the emerging leaders on your team. So I think that it's important to remember as you're doing that, like you only have one vase of water and you have multiple pots that you have to water. So being really intentional and thoughtful about like where you're pouring your energy, and I think that reminding yourself that that can shift week over week. So one week if you have, you know, a big client project and a lot of your focus has to go there, that's okay. Being intentional there and knowing that you have less water to give to your other pots, and then vice versa as different weeks go on. So I think, yeah, when I think about this stage, it's really, really being an ally across the board to different groups of people.
That's great. Thank you for your perspectives. So now we talked a little bit about how you look out as a leader. Let's talk the other way, because you're in the middle. So when I think about purpose-driven leadership, I also think about the kind of leadership I like to receive. So for the three of you, what does that look like when it's being modeled well by people who are senior to you? I think we all want to hear more about what you've learned after some years of experience, what to expect out of those who lead you.
Yeah, I'm happy with the mic now to go for that. I think in thinking about what Dr. Gower was saying with Betsy Plank and kind of the democratic process, one thing that as Gen Z and other generations are entering is thinking about where you can make democratic choices in leadership. I think many, as is natural, there's a lot of hierarchy and there's top down. And I think some places where I've seen success and positivity from the bottom through the top is when more junior leaders or mid-level managers are included in those decisions. And there's more of a conversation around what benefits all of us, because when we're working together better, our projects are going to be better, our success is going to be better, and we're going to continue to move better with excellence. So that's what I think.
Yeah, I love that. I think my response would be similar. Just like the importance of really understanding the why. That's something I expect from leaders that I work with. Like not just being given like tactical work. I need to understand and actually now at this level have a say in what the strategy is and why we're doing things a certain way that we're doing them. So I think that that's what I try to do as a leader for my teams, like giving them the space to ask questions, space for feedback, and also space to just like poke holes in the idea. You don't always have to be a yes man, Like I think it's really important to have your own unique perspective at every level in your career.
Yeah, so like it's interesting that I think about, like you said, that's what great leaders do. So that's what you try to emulate. What do you do when you're in a position where you're not getting that? So whether it's at this stage of your career when you first started, it's not that there's anything, let's say there's not something wrong with your leader in this situation. They're just not doing that. How do you try to get it out of them?
I think it's important also like to manage up, and telling them, like honestly, like, yeah. Hey, like I would really love to better understand like what is the why. Hey, I reviewed the project. I really love XYZ components of it, but there's one that I wanted to talk to you about. Like I think that it also like the onus is on direct reports to be providing feedback back like from bottom to top to their leaders too.
And I think you might not also always find the leader maybe that you're looking for on your team. Sometimes you just happen to be a part of a team where you're not finding sort of that mentor or that leader. But I encourage all of you, and someone said mentorship earlier, when you do have a great mentor, it sort of fills that void. I had the pleasure of speaking to one of my mentors, Natasha, who's here for 2 hours last night about things going on in my life and in my professional career and that sort of thing. And it's really great to find those people outside of your teams as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm going to add one thing. Newsflash, when you're working communications, you actually have to communicate with people. That's what kind of your best path to success. And as Alana said, and as Emma said, like you really just have to chat with people. I mean, it's so amazing, especially the Emerge students here tonight, everyone getting to talk with each other. This is your best tool, and that's what's going to help, moving up and down.
Yeah, I really like that. I was talking with another friend about this. I think it was just a couple of days ago, maybe last week, and the idea about like not just being a communications person when you're at your desk and you're typing and you're doing an assignment, but being the type of communications person you would counsel someone else to be as you operate around the office, as you work with people who are below you, as you get more senior, as you work with your bosses or other important stakeholders that you have. It's kind of when you think of it as a full-time mindset, it starts to become more comfortable, it starts to get easier, and you start building the relationships that we talk about as being really important in our careers. You guys got anything else?
Oh, I love that.
I got
feel
tons of questions.
No, I love that. I just feel like it reminds me of like being a communicator throughout your life. Like, you know, even like in personal life things, like a friend is having a conflict with a coworker and you're like giving advice. I feel like, I don't know if anybody else resonates with this in the room, but like if you're the go-to person in your friend group, it's like, wait, Alana, can you review this before I send it? Like, am I approaching this the right way? And I think it's really cool to see how like your career really shapes like so many factors in your life and who you are as a person. I love that.
Yeah, the PR people will be the official editors of a breakup text, I
Yes.
promise you. For the rest of your life. So people are going to send it to you and be like, can you just like proof check this really quick?
Yes.
Goes far.
All right, so we're gonna shift things a little bit, and I'm gonna like move this like our next topic is on the idea of like balancing ambition and authenticity, or sometimes I like to say like patience versus proactive. You can't be all one, you can't be all the other. There is no probably way to do it perfect every time, and that's okay. But when we think about, especially with where you are in your career, is there one thing that you've learned so far about like the self-trust in yourself as you navigate your career?
I think all three of us are very high performers, very high achievers, and everyone in the room is too, or we wouldn't be here, right? Something that I have to continue to remind myself is to be patient with the process. It's really hard as a high performer to make yourself sort of slow down and really focus on the work that you're doing. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm gunning for a promotion at the moment, and it's been really tricky, and I've gotten the advice from my current manager that yes, I need to slow down and be patient with the process and really master the work that I'm doing currently in order to move forward. So I'll just give you that piece of advice.
Yeah. There's no shortcut to getting 5 years experience. It takes 5 years.
Yep, exactly.
Sometimes it even takes 6.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's very true. I will tell you guys a story about trust. You guys should have learned you should never give me a mic. I'm sorry. We're going to be doing this all day. So when you're early in your career, I think one of my favorite things, and I'm sure everyone in the comms industry has experienced a little bit of imposter syndrome, where they're like, okay, and now you're going to prep some CEO to go on TV, and you're like, me, 23-year-old girl, trusting me to put someone on TV? Like, that can't be possible. I had a time where we were doing a very high-profile new business pitch, and I was the youngest in the room by at least 4 years. I think I was 23 at the time, and I did all the research. I had, stayed up late. I was getting really excited, and I was like, I don't even know if I'm gonna be allowed on the pitch team, but like, I'm just happy to be here, right? And so I ended up being in the room, and they're like, oh my God, okay, you're gonna come into the pitch, and I was like, me? This is like multi-million-dollar thing, like this is what we're gonna do. And so I think everyone else in the room trusted me to be there. They knew that I, had done the research. I had put strategy in the deck. I was there, I was ready, but I was the only one that didn't trust myself. And sometimes you're gonna be the person in the room that doesn't trust yourself. And I think you have to keep that in mind, that sometimes you can be your own worst enemy, not trusting the process, or, having the imposter syndrome or whatever. So sometimes you have to give yourself a little kick. And so I'd say something to keep in mind.
My answer is very similar. I was about to talk about imposter syndrome too. I love that you said that. I just think that I've also seen that not only have I obviously experienced imposter syndrome, but like I'm watching as everyone at every level is experiencing imposter syndrome often. There's a good chance that even senior leaders on your team, they're holding it together, but they're probably still doing things that they've never done before. So I think that goes like across the board. And one thing that really helped me when I thought about imposter syndrome was when instead of thinking of it as like a weakness, I started to think about it as really just a sign that I was growing. Anytime I felt that feeling, it was proof that I was growing and trying something new. So yeah, I feel like it's really important that everybody experiences some imposter syndrome a little bit.
Yeah. Okay. So I was debating if I was going to say this or not in my head, but I will. I have a little bit of a hot take when it comes to imposter syndrome. Maybe not that hot, but like the idea is you got to keep it to yourself. I've had plenty of young professionals at work tell me that they have imposter syndrome, and I as like a fellow mid-level person here on the panel, I'm thinking, I want to give you a job and you're telling me that like you're maybe not good at it, or I want to give you an opportunity and you say like, oh, you're giving me this really cool job and I don't know if I'm qualified to like do the really cool thing. Like, go do the cool thing, So I'm not saying that you shouldn't feel it or be that way. My advice would be to find people in your life that you can trust. Ideally, that's mentors or people who have maybe a mentor-like role that you can play off that and do that in private. That could be somebody at your office, it could be somebody outside your office, but it's something that you don't want to broadcast. You want to work on that internally and then project your confidence out.
Yeah, never let them see you sweat. Never, ever.
Well said. So we're talking a little bit, and Emma mentioned it. You know, you hit really hard on it. You have any good advice for people who feel like when they're in the position where I don't want to slow down, I want to be all gas, no brakes. I'm a proactive person, and the only tonic is patience. Like, what do you do?
I think you need to have your own personal board of directors, which many people who are on my personal board of directors are here in this room. You need to find people, whether they're peers or managers or professors or people that you've just come across in your life, a coach even, that you can talk to about these things and say, hey, I'm really excited about this. I don't want anyone to make me pump the brakes, at work. So I need you to keep me motivated and help me to, be able to sort of keep up this momentum. And leaning on your peers and that personal board of directors, I think has always helped me in my career, and now building that board for 8+ years, I'll reach out to dozens of people. It's really great, and the people that you have here in this room sitting next to you could even be on your personal board of directors. So take advantage of the fact that you're networking with so many wonderful people today. You never know where it will help you in your career. And this, for example, when you continue to move along.
Yeah, I like that. By the way, I got to say, I like that you said that, how your board is not just it's not just all peers, it's not all senior people. It's a really, call it a diverse mix of experiences.
Yes, it is, absolutely. And so never count out, your peers as well, because you're going through it together, and they can give you just as great advice as someone who might be 10, 20 years into their career as well.
I especially like thinking about it when, you're at this stage, like you were going through the same experiences at the same time. You're at the same level now. It's really nice to be able to look to someone at the same level as you and be able to ask questions that maybe senior leaders or mentors wouldn't be able to weigh in on at the current moment of the industry. So I definitely align with that. And when it comes to patience, I think that was a lesson that took time to earn. I know you talked about earlier, the ego part of you being okay, but I'm performing well, and did you see all the wins that I got, and X, Y, Z, where is the next step for me? And I think that again goes back to being a good communicator in the industry, speaking to your mentors, speaking to your managers and leaders on your team to better understand the importance of taking your time, and what you need to do to get to the next level, and that may not happen overnight.
Yeah, I so support both of that. I'm taking it in a slightly different direction because I feel like I can't agree with you guys for a third time. But one of the things, in addition to having your own personal board of directors or finding your peers or talking to those people, there's also a lot of work to be done with yourself. And I think one of the things, doing also an external, but then an internal audit. I'm sure all of you guys are super hungry. Everyone that's in this room has to have been hungry at one point and is still, I'm sure, starving and just looking to get better. And one of those things that I think people don't teach is how to grow yourself. You come out of college or wherever and you're like, okay, I don't really know how to be an adult, but I'm just going to wing it. And one of those things you can take, just like you would take an external audit with a board of, advisors, you can take an internal audit and think about gaining some perspective. And I don't want to say this in a blunt way, but sometimes you just need to take a walk. Take a walk and think about, what matters to me? Where do I need to go with this? What do I even want? Am I chasing this promotion because I want this to, it's going to make me feel better, I want more money, I want whatever, or do you need to take a step back and reevaluate and think about, maybe what's my 2-year plan, what's my 5-year plan, and how is this getting here? Can I maybe pull in an external person, or can I call my friend from college and say, hey, what do you think about this, or how do I do it? There's so many ways, but I would also highly recommend, looking into yourself, and it is very helpful to have someone. I've definitely done that with Brian when I was in college. I was like, I don't really know what to do. How are you supposed to do this? But looking into yourself and setting up some sort of internal pros and cons list, a coaching plan, is also something that's really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, your comments collectively made me think that this is a thought I've had for a while, is that the one thing that college is really bad at preparing you for is that a first impression in the workplace takes at least 3 months and probably closer to 6. So when you're used to 3-4 months break, new classes, you know, you could join PRSSA and in a year or even a semester run for the executive board, and there's all this pace of change happening, and then you get to work. It's like, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to do this job for like 3 or 4 months. I'm going to start to get really good at it through these repetitive tasks. And you're like, okay, 3 months, next class. No, still making your first impression. And that changes, that was a perspective that hit me really hard. Like, I was ready for something next, and they're like, you haven't even started yet.
And I will say, maybe if you do sort of get to that point where you feel like you're fulfilling yourself in many ways at work, but you still want that sort of extra assignment or extra challenge and you're not quite getting it there, you can also do that outside of work.
Yep.
So all three of us are involved, as we've said before, in the Emerging Leaders Committee with Plank. I'm also involved with DePaul University's College of Communication, their Young Professional Advisory Board, and I serve as a vice chair for one of their student newsletters there. So that also kind of fills my cup. I'm also involved with the Junior League, and I've helped with their events for many, many years. And it's kind of a cool thing to be able to build a skill outside of work that's also very transferable to being a communicator. I plan lots of events for the partners that we serve. So it's just a great way to kind of exercise those skills and then bring them back to your workforce and then hopefully build that into your promotion case.
Yeah, I gotta add, I used to be so nervous public speaking all the time. And turns out the only way to get better at it is to do more of it. And I didn't get public speaking opportunities as an assistant account executive. Like it happened through volunteer work. That's just one like really small tangible example. But speaking of tangible examples, I want to talk about that too. I want to talk about mentorship. And I'd like each of you to think about and share a story or an anecdote, something like really tactical about how mentorship shaped your ability and how you lead from where you are right now.
I'm happy to go. A mentorship changed my life. I would not be sitting right here if not for mentors in my life. Like, not even a joke. Some of you may know Merritt Montanari, who now is Merritt Quinn. She just got married. But at, no, it's funny. At the University of Alabama, I was like an average student. I went to school and I was like, yeah, public relations seems like something that fits really well with my personality, so I'm just gonna do it. And I think, you know, I was hungry for opportunities and I was looking at, you know, what's happening, and I had someone reach their hand down and pull me up the ladder, and that started me to just start rapidly climbing. And I think I had Merritt, and then I met Brian, and then I became involved with the Plank Center, and I've just continued and continued and continued. And it just takes one person, one thing to make a difference. That's not really a tangible example, but like, I say this like emotionally, I genuinely would not be here nor where I am in my career without mentorship, without people helping each other. So whether it's you two sitting there and talking together, or people back here sitting there and talking together, like that can literally change your life. And that's my big emotional example.
I have to echo, obviously, at the University of Alabama, the faculty is incredible, and I had a similar experience with just the professors that we had at the university. I think that was my first experience having true mentorship and true people like championing for like what was best for me and encouraging me to like go after everything that I had like dreamed of for myself, giving me guidance of like what that looks like and true tangible steps of what to do next. I remember Mike Little would, you know, connect his students, like say, go on my LinkedIn and tell me who you want to connect with, and I'll put you in touch. I think I connected with probably 20 to 30 people, like on the phone, in person, everywhere. And just those conversations gave me so much context and clarity about the industry before I even joined it, just to say like, oh, okay, like talk to someone in XYZ field, like social media, which isn't totally my realm. Like, oh, okay, that isn't exactly what I want to do. Or like agency side, I'm like, oh, that actually does sound interesting. Like I was able to learn so much because they gave me the opportunity to connect with those folks. And then I think in my first job, I got really lucky to have a manager that was a true advocate for me. I started my career on the media relations team at Ketchum, and I was the first ever entry-level person on this team. It's a specialized team focusing on like getting earned media placements in top tier outlets for clients across the board. So I wasn't just working on food or just on sports, I was working on everything. And I had never pitched a day in my life, ever. Started my first day, I had 200 people to pitch, including like the Today Show, and I was like 22 years old. So I was given that opportunity, obviously internally imposter syndrome, externally no.
That's right.
But like her ability to like say like, hey, giving you this opportunity, come into my office as soon as the first person responds back. Because, okay, I land a pitch, somebody responds, no idea what to do. Run in with my laptop, like, Stephanie, please, like, can you help? Somebody said they're interested, like, what happens next? Like,
That's so
it was
real.
like a step-by-step process, but like, she really gave me the ability to do, and then the fear of like, what do I do next, completely disappeared. And every win that I got, it wasn't like, oh, like, I, as the manager, got this because my assistant helped me. It was like, Alana got this, and I'm here supporting her. So like, she really let me like take credit and shine from like with senior level viewership. So really grateful for that, and that's something that I will never forget as a leader and want to do for my teams too.
By the way, the last 2 times I was doing pitching, I got total crickets. So I probably forgot what happens when they respond. So I'll have to call you.
You can come running to my office.
Yeah, I'll get. It's been crickets out there for me.
Well, I think maybe one thing to just kind of piggyback off of what the two of you were saying, obviously we can all agree that mentorship is such a positive, beautiful thing, but the even more beautiful thing is when you pay it forward. And so we've all been so lucky to have so many great mentors, and I think you're constantly thinking about who you can connect with, but also remember to pay it forward. So at some point when you're old like us, you can volunteer and maybe be a mentor for some young professionals. I know I volunteer with where I went to undergrad, University of Cincinnati, go Bearcats. But I have a mentor there who I've been involved with the program, and they rotate through students. So it's just really great to pay it forward, and I want to encourage you to think about doing that at some point.
I actually might jump in quickly because while we were talking, I remembered something. And I noticed a lot of you put up empathetic as kind of describing leadership. I will say, in addition to the previous thing, I suffered a great personal loss a few years ago, and I was a junior person in the workforce. And there's nothing worse than having your life split in half and then having to go to work and pitch reporters. Eek, literally horrible. And I had someone that I think is a leader at my workplace actually come to me and say, I know you probably don't want to hear this, but I think that you need to step away for a little bit and take some time for yourself. And I did forget about it because I low-key blacked it out, but I think that there are times when you won't expect to see something coming, or you won't know maybe that it's the best for you, but someone is looking out for you, and a leader is there and caring and being an advocate and empathetic, and they will make a difference. And turns out I really needed to take a little bit of a break, and then I came back better than ever. So it can be more than just potentially in your professional career. It can be someone that cares for you on the whole.
No doubt. It kind of leads us right into our next topic, really, because in some ways, because one of the best things about a career in corporate communications, PR, brand, in this world that we operate in, is that we have the ability to talk about progress and change in the world. Some people do it by like literally being on Edelman or Porter Novelli's like specific practice area that does it. But everybody who does this career has these opportunities to help push progress forward, no matter what type of agency you work at, no matter what type of client you have or corporation you work for. So from your perspective, how do you see communications not just as storytelling, but also a platform for progress?
Yeah, I think this question is so important. I think in this industry, we have the duty of ensuring that we are advocating internally, whether that's, internally on a client team or, in a business. So I think it's important to like communicate with your team on moments in time or important moments for your company to step up, to step in, and once where you should take a step back and like let other people lead the charge in the communication there. So I think that it's important for us to be advocating for that internally. I would love to give an example of one that my company company. We just launched about 2 weeks ago. Gosh, time flies, 2 weeks ago now.
Get that.
So I work for GoPuff. Do you guys know what GoPuff is? Yeah, okay, nods, love to hear it. Okay, we're a retailer. For those who don't know, we're a retailer and online retailer for instant commerce. We have, everyday essentials, whether that's groceries, snacks, food, etc. And so when SNAP benefits were paused due to the government shutdown, we internally, within, I think, 24 to 48 hours, got a program up for SNAP relief, making sure that families, when benefits were going to be paused, they would have a way to get food. We gave out $10 million in food donations, giving families $50 in free delivery, no strings attached for SNAP recipients for the time that benefits were paused. So I think just a prime example that we have SNAP recipients that are a huge part of our customer base. We know our customers. We are a retailer. We have food to give. This was an opportunity and a moment for us to step up. And I think that as PR professionals, we need to be thinking about those moments where it makes sense for us to step up and those for us to take a step back.
Yeah, no, and that is, snaps, that is such an incredible movement that you guys have done, and I was so happy to hear that. Mine goes along those lines. I think just putting the public back in public relations, I think, especially whether we could be in different segments, thinking about, maybe in niche customer segments, or maybe, we need to be on TikTok or Substack or whatever. One thing that I think is really interesting is kind of how folks are almost getting back to the initial beginning of public relations, and what is the ethos? What are we doing to change things? How are we bringing things forward? And beyond storytelling, because I think storytelling is very business-based. I think there's a lot of things going on in the world right now that have a much wider view than just for business or just to tell a brand story. It's about changing perspectives. It's about changing minds. Similarly, I'll bring an example. In New York City, there was just a very large election where Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani was elected in New York, and I think there's been a lot of different, discussions for many reasons, but one of the big things was around his campaign, and a campaign led by young people, and a campaign focused on the public. And I think people are really jazzed about, talking with people, getting down. How are we not just telling the story, but how are we showing that we care? And I think with social media and TikTok and maybe a Substack or just regular media, it might be a little bit detached. And I think a lot of brands, especially as folks are trying to push larger agendas or maybe change minds and change the world, we have to be focusing on the people, focusing on how do we get boots on the ground, how do we do more in-person things, especially now that we're coming out of the COVID era. And so I think putting the public back in public relations is something to really just go beyond the storytelling and get back to the center of PR.
I agree with that, and I'll just kind of take a different approach to it as an internal communicator. I spent a rotation last year working with EY's global corporate responsibility team, and as a part of my role was to help communicate the stories that were happening inside of the organization. So whether that be people who were volunteering on their own accord or with one of the volunteer programs that we have, and just showing them sort of what they can do to maximize the resources that we have at EY. So for example, you can take time to volunteer. They have different volunteer activities through EY Ripples that are set up. But then also too, on the other side of that, making sure that our leaders were visibly volunteering as well and sort of setting that example. So kind of going back to our conversation from the very beginning, how can you lead by example? There was a workplace study done by Deloitte, not to name a competitor, but if you Google it, it's the Gen Z and Millennial Workplace Study. They just came out with the latest edition in early May, so I encourage you to take a peek at it. But 9 in 10 Gen Z people in the workplace value meaningful purpose, so that includes volunteering over anything else. So that just means, we have to evolve our workforce as well and sort of meet the demands of, all of us really great minds who want to participate and get involved and help, not only internally, but also externally, as they explained as well.
Well said, everyone. So here's the thing. With a room like this, I'm sure each one of you is absolutely capable of asking a great question right now. But the good news is that Grant, Eric, the Plank Center, Carla has designed a program where there's plenty of room for conversation as we go throughout the day. We're going to be here till like 9 o'clock. So instead of Q&A, what we're going to do is we're just going to finish with a short thing from each of these three. But I'll challenge you as you know, over the next like 6 hours that we're here, to the questions that you're thinking and you want to ask, that you find one of these three or others from the Emerging Leaders Committee, and make sure that you ask your questions and start to grow your relationships and your network. So instead of Q&A, we're just going to finish with a quick one, just sort of like what we started. If you had to leave the room with one insight on what leadership looks like to you, what and why? Sort of rapid fire.
I would say that leadership is creating space for ideas, for growth, and I love what you said before, pulling people up the ladder with you.
Yeah, it's being that one person and choosing to make a difference. Leadership, especially in this profession, is committing to excellence, ethics, and progress. If you just start walking, people are going to follow you. And I will say this really quickly because I don't want to take up too much time, but I heard something from Kerry Washington, and you guys are all going to laugh at me. I heard something from Kerry Washington, the actress, and she said, if you're praying to catch the bus, you're sprinting to catch that bus. You're not strolling along praying you're going to catch the bus. You're praying you catch the bus, and you're running for it, and if you don't catch that bus, you're in the position to catch the next one. And in leadership, everyone's watching you, and they're going to start running to catch the bus too. So don't forget you have that power. People are watching you.
Being a catalyst for change, so going back to the word that I mentioned earlier, but I think that also involves a lot of empathy is what we've discussed as well. So being able to, read the room and have that sort of mindset as you're trying to provoke change is really important.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll add is flexibility. I think great leaders are flexible in how they lead others. But great leaders, whether they're senior or it's their first day of work, and whatever they're leading, they're flexible in what they do and how they do it. And I'll point at Gabby because I've known her for a couple years, and I know that when we first met, she was dead set on doing food PR, and you do cryptocurrency.
Not exposing me like this.
And you are really happy with how your career turned out, right? So you were dead set on something, and I think that that's a part of the leadership mindset, is to stay flexible. So I want to leave you with that as well. So thanks for listening.
Thank you, guys.
Fantastic. Can we give them a round of applause? Great. So, as Brian said, this is a conference that we have intentionally planned so you all can do a couple of things. Hear some great content, ask plenty of questions, but most importantly, network and spend some time networking. What we are going to do is take a brief break. It's going to be a little bit longer than our last one so we can turn the stage a little bit. So during this time, please be intentional. Connect with each other. Can all the emerging leaders, and I'm going to say the seasoned leaders, please raise your hand in the room. Take a look around the room, folks, like emerging leaders as well as like professionals and work professionals in the room. Please raise your hand. Please be intentional and connect with folks in the room. So we are going to ask you all to take this break. We're going to come reconvene back in the seats at 3:50 on the dot to start the rest of our program, okay? So enjoy.
so short.
Testing, testing. All right, everybody. We're going to start making our way back to our seats so we can get kicked off with our next panel discussion. You all are in for a very, very dynamic treat. We are so honored as well as excited to welcome our honorees for the Milestone of Mentoring evening this evening. So give them a round of applause. So this panel is going to be led by one of our colleagues on the board, Jeff Curtis, who will introduce himself, but definitely is going to be leading this conversation that's going to be really captivating, engaging you all, and taking us for definitely a journey today. So Jeff, I hand it over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. Good afternoon again, everyone. Excited to be able to moderate this panel and have the honor to moderate this panel of all of these very well-deserving honorees. Eric mentioned I'm Jeff Curtis. I'm on the Plank board, and I'm former Chief Communications Officer of Horizon Therapeutics. I'm going to go ahead and just jump right in and let the panel introduce themselves. We'll go down the line here. Start with Christy.
Hi, everybody. My name is Christy Sithapan. I serve as the Vice President of Inclusion and Engagement at MMC. We are an integrated marketing and communications agency under OPRG, which stands for Omnicom PR Group. I am based in Atlanta. I am a Southern girl through and through. Hometown is Nashville, Tennessee. Yeah, who said that? Go Vols. I went to UT Knoxville. In my day-to-day work, I drive inclusion, culture, impact, learning and development. Outside my 9 to 5 and my 5 to 9, as I like to joke, I'm a professional volunteer. So I serve on many nonprofit boards, including Outstanding Atlanta, as well as a few others in the industry, including the Tombras School of Advertising and PR for UT Knoxville. It's an honor to be here.
Hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. I'm Lisa Sepulveda. I'm at Edelman. I've been with Edelman for 38 years. It's a long time. I'm currently the Chief People and Culture Officer, which is really an interesting story because a year and a half ago and 12 years prior, I was the Chief Client Officer. And it's an interesting trajectory that I'll talk a little bit more about later. I'm based in New York, and I'm thrilled to be here with all of you. I got to meet a lot of you last night. It's going to be a nice night tonight.
Good afternoon. My name is Damon Jones. I'm the Chief Communications Officer at Procter & Gamble. Originally from Detroit, now live in Cincinnati. Procter & Gamble is a global multinational company. You might know us as the company behind your Tide, your Olay, your Pantene, your Crest, your Pampers. So we like to say we're in your medicine cabinet underneath your sink. Wherever you need us to be, that's where we are. So we have about 100 globally leading brands, household and personal care, as well as health and beauty brands. And yeah, that's my short story. I'm going to stick to it.
Hi, everyone. I'm Karen Russell. I taught for 31 and a half years at the University of Georgia. Go Dogs. And then I retired and moved to Madison, Wisconsin. The climate is slightly different there. And so now I'm just enjoying retirement and looking forward to hearing the rest of the panel.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Linda Rutherford. I work at Dallas-based Southwest Airlines. Most recently was the Chief Communications and Administration Officer and retired those leadership positions in April, so I now serve the airline as an executive advisor. Very excited to be with you all this afternoon and this evening.
Thank you, everyone. And what we're going to do, 30, 35 minutes of panel discussion, and then promise we'll get to about 10 minutes of questions from the audience, because we think it's really important that you have time to talk to these, ask questions to these amazing leaders. So with that, let's jump right in. There is just a lot of discussion around linear, nonlinear career paths. And Christy, I'm going to start with you and ask you about any specific moment when your career path took an unexpected turn, and what made you say yes, even though it may have veered from your original plan?
Yeah, this is a great question. I love this question. So when I graduated, the housing market had just crashed. It was about 08, 09 officially. So many of you in this room are probably looking for jobs and trying to figure out what's next. I also got my degree in PR. I did not have a job in PR for many, many years. So I said yes to opportunities because I wanted to continue to learn and just grow. And it was all about pivoting and meeting new people. I was an executive recruiter at one point, and one of my colleagues had said he would talk to candidates and say, how would you describe your career path? And is it traditional or a happy accident? That's truly how my career has been. Everything has been a happy accident. It's been a result of, that looks like a cool opportunity, and I'm just gonna jump on it. And so, even though there were times where I was really unsure or uncertain, I just decided to say yes. And so 3.5 years ago, I joined Omnicom. So Omnicom is, well, really after our acquisition in a few weeks, will become the largest global holding company in marketing communications in the world. So I didn't always have the answers, but I knew that I wanted to continue to learn and grow. And even if I didn't have the answers, I leaned on mentors to figure that out. So I learned that through the skills that I gained, whether it was presentation skills, sales, storytelling, there was always going to be something to come out of that. So it's not just about taking opportunity, but what lessons are coming from that as well.
And Damon, I think a lot of people maybe in this audience, and I know I was one of these people who was really concerned with taking that first step. And was it going to be the right step or the wrong step? So, two-part question for you. What would you tell somebody who's worried about, making the wrong step, so to speak, but also what defines wrong versus right when you're kind of taking that very first step in your career?
Yeah, I don't know that there is a universal right or wrong. And as I reflect back on to my career, I would say what's defined what I think has been a good assignment or job or role has been one where I could learn from, right? So I've been with Procter & Gamble for 28 years, right? And in that time, have worked in 5 different cities across 3 different continents. Worked in the US, in Boston, and in Cincinnati. I worked in Singapore. I worked in Europe, in London and Geneva, and I took some time off to work on President Obama's first campaign. So a wide range of experience. And there's times when you ask yourself a question, hey, am I qualified for that job, right? And then, how does this job going to set me up for what's next, right? And so part of what I evaluate is what can I learn from this role? Because everyone you're going to go into, yes, I'm going to work hard, I'm going to do the job, I'm going to do all of that, but I'm always curious to know what people want to learn so I can set them up for success. And so the question I ask is, what's next after next, right? If I take this role, what do I learn? What skills, what experiences, what networks can I build if I do this job with the right degree of performance and with the right learning mindset and agility that sets me up for opportunities that I may not know exist, right? There are times you can go in and you kind of think you know what the job is like, but most people who work in communications, part of why we like it is that there's always that undefined element of the job. There's the phone call you get at the time you don't want to get it. That can be energizing and interesting. It can also be draining at times, right? But you go into a role because you want to learn, you want to be around people who are smarter than you, who are willing to help you understand not just what, but why and how. And if you go into those assignments that way and you're in an environment that is encouraging and nourishing and supportive, that I find to be the right assignment. So don't worry about getting it perfect, but worry about going into something that's going to give you growth and learning opportunity and partnership, and that you will grow from and you'll set yourself up for success.
Just a real quick follow-up. Was there a switch that flipped for you that gave you, yourself anyway, that permission to explore and be curious in different opportunities?
Yeah, probably what it was is, at P&G, most of us work on individual brand teams, and I had the opportunity relatively early in my career to take what was a very non-traditional assignment. So imagine working on big global brands and someone says, well, we need a communications manager for the IT department. And it does not sound like a very exciting opportunity. But I took it anyway against the advice of a number of mentors. And to this day, it was my most stretching opportunity. Because I wasn't just the PR guy. I was the comms guy, I was the marketing guy, I was the investor guy, and I was the employee communications person, right? And so at a relatively junior level, I had the opportunity to sit as part of a leadership team, to be exposed to how a part of the business was run. And I worked for a leader who says, I'm looking for a business partner. I'm not just looking for a communications manager. And after sitting in that room with someone who I felt like, hey, this person is going to grow me and invest in me. And so it gave me a new way because I was just trying to figure out what does success look like, but I was asking the wrong questions. And so what I learned from that is how to ask the question to know that this was a good opportunity. And so when you find someone who's willing to pour into you and help you grow, that's a lane that I've stuck with.
Thank you. I'd like to focus a little on just leadership. We're living in some interesting times right now, and being a leader takes on a lot of different definitions. And Linda, I know you've been a part of different conversations, as have I, in different venues about hearing a lot about a perma-crisis, meaning that all this disruption is becoming the norm and change is becoming the norm. As a leader, can you talk about a specific practice that you've developed on your team to stay grounded and focused when everything around us feels so chaotic all the time?
Sure. To use an airline term, I think it's important that you put on your own oxygen mask first before you try to help someone else. And so I think someone in the previous panel said it too, that where someone suggested she take time away and kind of reground herself and deal with what she was dealing with. Sometimes you have to do that. And I would say that if you're the person on the team, you need to know how to ask for it. If you're the leader, you need to know how to spot it. And so I think that's very important, is making sure that everyone is present and focused. And then I think as the leader, there's a lot of noise. You mentioned perma-crisis. There's something coming at you in your organization on a daily basis. I think what we provide is a very important filter for our teams to help them stay focused on the work that needs to get done, because they could kind of fly off in 100 different directions. And so what I try to do is make sure that even if there was something chaotic happening, it's like, here are the two things we need to focus on right now, this week, this month, this quarter. And if people had questions, we tried to have, a couple of forums where people could ask those questions. And I might not have all the answers, but I was committed to going away and trying to find the best information and bring it back to them. So I think we have to provide clarity and focus. And then lastly, at Southwest Airlines, fun. Even in the toughest moments, I think, levity and sort of keeping perspective are important. And so I think the leader also plays the role there to remember that, yeah, we take our work seriously, but we don't have to take ourselves too seriously.
Lisa, related to this, I think one of the hardest things, I think all of us may have experienced, is that time where you have to ask for assistance or ask for help, particularly in times of crisis. Over your career at Edelman, have you ever had to ask for help or guidance during a time of crisis? And what did that teach you about strength as a leader with not having all the answers?
So first of all, I just want to build on Linda's fun. I think that's really important. We talk so much about the tenets of being a good leader. Being a good leader is making sure that we're doing that. But Jeff, you're right. In this situation, we are dealing with complex situations every day. Everything is changing. For you all, the job market's changing. It's going fast. It's hard to break in. And so I think the biggest thing is to get comfortable with the raising your hand and not being afraid to ask the question. It might be the wrong question, but you've got to be brave and confident that that question is going to get you to a solution or get you closer. And I think that that's something that we, at all levels, sometimes we're afraid to ask the question. And when things are hard out there, and things are hard with our client, and we're dealing with something that's really hard, we have to be confident. The other thing about bringing people together is, being able to answer these questions, but also the sharing of lessons learned. And I think that that makes a huge difference too. Not just what's gone well, but what was a challenge and how did you overcome it? So I bring teams together on a regular basis to just share. What are we going through? What are we living? What are we bringing today? And I think that really makes a difference.
How long did it take you to get comfortable with asking for help?
It was a while. It was a while. When I was younger, I did have one moment very early in my career. I was an assistant account executive. I was working on something that I didn't want to work on. I wanted to work on the Advil business. I walked into the head of healthcare. I don't know where I got the nerve to do this, by the way, at this point. I walked into his office. I said, "Hi, I'd love to work on Advil. He said, who are you? I told him my name. He said, you have a trial basis. Go work on Advil. I worked on Advil for 19 years. So the ability to ask the question, but in answer to your question, Jeff, it took me a while to get used to asking the harder questions of my managers and especially of my clients.
Yeah. Turning to mentorship, one of my favorite Betsy quotes is, "You are never too old or too young to mentor. It is amazing what can be accomplished when no one takes credit." Karen, to you, how has mentorship provided stability or courage in your own journey, or in the lives of those that you've had the opportunity to mentor over your career?
So thinking about it this week, I kept coming back to that adage, the only constant is change. Have you heard that? And so I looked it up to see where did that come from. And it actually goes all the way back to like Greek philosophers. And there was one, I can't remember the exact quote, but it was something like, you never step into the same river twice. And I actually like that better than the only constant is change. Because if you think about the river, if you take your foot out, the water moves, and next time you step in, it's different, right? What I like about that is it makes the point that change is normal. Change, we should expect change. We should not expect stability. And I think it's even more so true now. And so I think that as mentors, what we can do, or what people have done for me, is to learn to embrace the change and not be afraid of it and not try to get to how it used to be before, but to figure out what we can do now that's even better. And so that's the encouragement I received, and that's what I would share with others.
A large part of mentorship, too, is just the ability to give and receive feedback. It's a big part of the conversation. Lisa, I know we discussed this in the past, but what are the keys that you found, and Karen as well, in giving and receiving feedback? And are there differences in the giving and receiving from senior leaders to emerging leaders or entry-level professionals versus senior professionals?
I think they talked about it on the panel prior also, that there's issues and feedback conversations that have to happen at every level. So they don't stop. But you start to get your muscle early on by getting good at receiving feedback. I really think as junior people in the workplace, sometimes we take feedback as criticism, right? And really, if we're able to distill it and think about it and decide what we're going to take from that, it's really important. Another really important point in feedback is trying to give feedback in real time. It's really hard to receive feedback 2 months after something happened. It's much easier to do it in real time as something's going on where you can really understand what that feedback means. So the getting comfortable, I mean, usually in the beginning of your career, it's more developing that ability to receive. But then starting to share feedback in a way, it's helpful for your managers to share that something wasn't clear or something needed to be done a little bit differently. And it really is in the way you have the conversation. At a senior level, I'll tell you one little story. We had a very senior executive leadership team meeting not too long ago. And one of the exercises we did was, and no one was very comfortable, by the way, because we had a team of people not comfortable in giving one another feedback. They went around and gave it to somebody else or talked about it with other people. So we did a speed dating at a very senior level where we had to give one piece of feedback that was positive and one piece of feedback that was constructive. Before we even started, 2 people wanted to opt out. I'm like, everybody's playing, everybody's playing. And in the end, it was a really beneficial exercise that I actually believe has led to better giving and receiving of feedback by that team.
Karen, anything to add on your side?
I mean, I graded people for 30 years, right? Like, nobody ever wants a bad grade. And it doesn't change when you get old either. I still don't want a bad grade. Like, teachers don't want bad teaching evaluations. So I think that you have to come from a place of giving feedback that will help them improve. And so not just this is bad, but I see what you're trying to do here. What if you did this instead? And so offering it as a way of helping them grow instead of just pure criticism.
Yeah. Lisa, to the story you just told, I'm going to just tell a quick one. My favorite was I had an offsite. It was mid-level people within an agency, and I think there were 15 of us. And each person had to sit in the middle of a circle and do kind of the stop, start, continue. But the person in the circle was not allowed to respond. You just had to receive it. And the thought, and you had to pay attention to what the back of your neck started, the reptilian response in your brain. It started like twitching, and because you're going, oh my God, I gotta say something to that person, and then you couldn't even talk about it afterwards.
And you have to think about your facial expressions.
Exactly.
To build on that, one of the best pieces of advice I got in this area was to be the person people love to give feedback to, right? Because it set you up to constantly benefit from the experience of people around you. And to me, in a field like this where so much is experience-driven, that stuck with me, right? So whenever someone gives me feedback, I try to do two things. I try to say, number one, thank them for taking the time because they didn't have to do it. Two, to tell them either now or at some point, what I'm going to do with it, right? Because that just continues to incent them to give you more, right? And then the third is to say, okay, great, here's how I'm going to continue to improve, right? Literally just do that and you get into the habit of it. And it's like, okay, great, Damon's going to do something with this. And people love to be helpful. People love to give you their sage advice. So that whole process of, again, thanking people, letting them know that you value it, but then closing the loop with what you're doing with that feedback, it's a great thing to think about.
Damon, staying with you, we've been kind of talking about it through other answers and I believe the last panel, and when Grant was even talking to Sherman too, just communicators as culture carriers. What role do you think communicators play in restoring trust and fostering belonging when, particularly in these times, but just overall?
Yeah, I mean, I think in many rooms where you're working with other senior business leaders, the final decision on how we are navigating a crisis, deciding where to make an investment or whatever it might be, usually doesn't rest with the communications person. Many times rests with the business leader, rests with the CEO. So the value that I add to our CEO comes from the fact that he wants me in the room to start with, and the fact that he wants to hear what it is that I have to say, right? So there's a truth in that, this exchange, which requires me to be well-informed across a range of audiences, right? And so I pride myself on making sure that I'm paying attention to who are all of the voices that I'm paying attention to, both the loud voices as well as the not so loud voices. And I think when you're really in touch with all of the audiences that are really important, you can represent the totality of the stakeholders in the room. Because many times we're dealing with issues of perception, and when sometimes people don't feel heard, they get very quiet, and those are the people that I'm worried about. So always worried about what the quiet ones are doing in the room, right? And so for me, I think that's really connected to your point on culture. You can't know and understand culture if you're not developing the relationships where people are not afraid to tell you what they really think and know that you're going to do something valuable with that input.
Linda, how do you see kind of the culture carrying show up in the work at Southwest?
I think our organization kind of divides into two areas. It's the promise makers and the promise keepers. So we've got people who are trying to stimulate demand, put butts in seats, hire the right people, and then you've got the promise keepers, everybody in the operation trying to make it go well every day. And I always joke that, we fly the general public and we operate in weather. What could possibly go wrong? And so, it's a daily effort to do that. And I feel like our team is in the nooks and crannies of the relationships inside and outside the organization, building affinity for the brand, right? As a good place to work, as a great airline to fly with, as a good corporate citizen, as a partner to the regulators, all that. And I think that we play a central role. I couldn't agree with Damon more that we play that central role where we have relationships in all of those audience and stakeholder groups so we can bring back information into the organization to know kind of the state of things, right? State of the airline, if you will, and then can help bring the priorities of the company back out in the right stories with the right, with the right audiences. And I think that's the role we play. An example I would give quickly is after Winter Storm Elliott in December of 2022, we stranded about 2 million people during the Christmas holidays when we had an operational meltdown. And there was all kinds of fallout from that. We had to do a lot of work to rebuild not only the operation, the technology, but the trust. Trust among our employees, first of all, because we screwed up their lives, and then trust among the customers because we screwed up their lives. And, but we wanted to do it in a Southwest way. And so, we wanted our culture and what we mean and what we represent in the airline industry to come forward with that. And so communications had a central role in helping devise what that was going to look like, which was basically a public report card, where every time we did something we said we were going to do, the giant check mark went on the website, that kind of thing. We talked about it at every earnings call. We did CEO media roundtables to kind of talk about it and keep it front and center. And I think that showed that we care, because those were not good news stories to tell. That was not a good news story to react to, but we owned it. And I think we were honest and transparent, and that came off as very on brand for us. And so I think that, that helped actually cement our culture as that organization that's going to own it when things don't go right and do it the Southwest way.
Did you notice kind of a starting point, and Damon, for you too, or anybody on the panel, where the culture kind of shifted and started to evolve into that? I mean, was there a point in time outside of that where you really felt and saw the culture coming from one place to another over time?
I don't know that there was a point in time. I mean, I think, frankly, the advent and the ubiquity of social media has given us a window into how people really are engaging.
Yep.
So if I would say, today versus 15 years ago, that's one of the enablers of it. And consumers view, in my case, brands as part of their lives. And so part of what we had to do is to figure out which of these types of conversations we could earn our way into, and which people didn't want us to hear about. Or you go back to a few summers ago in the summer of George Floyd, and people wanted to hear from companies about what they were doing. Well, for some of our brands, the answer was yes, but did people really care what their toilet paper thought about race relations? Probably not, right? And so you've got to be able to do what I call is read the room and develop an intuitive understanding of what do the audiences that you care about, what do they want to hear from you? And not every decision can you go test and can you go get data, right? Which is why it's important you have those relationships, but you need to be a part of, to be able to walk in the shoes of those stakeholder groups, right? And I think that's just an important part of the job, and people who do well enjoy that. People who do well in this industry enjoy communicating and connecting and listening and understanding, because it's not always about a transaction. Sometimes it's building a deep understanding and appreciation of who these audiences are, what's your relationship with them, so that you can represent them when they're not represented themselves.
Oh, thank you.
Can I answer this question
Yeah,
too?
absolutely.
So I, at MMC, drive the culture within the agency, and I think throughout my career, I've really had to lean into my discernment, and so that's something that I wasn't always told that you should really hone in on. It's come more organically, but since the pandemic and George Floyd's murder, and so many things have continued to happen, that I feel like for me as a leader, I always have to pay attention to what's going on. So I'm based in Atlanta, MMC is in New York, our employees are all over the country, but just sometimes the acknowledgement of what's happening and just saying that I see you, and if you need to talk, whatever the case may be, like, please come to me. And sometimes, with our leaders and our junior staff, there often feels like a separation, but it's just the acknowledgement sometimes, just saying, we recognize what's going on, and we're here for you. And so I was at a conference recently, and someone said, transparency is a derivative of trust. And so I always think about that, because we're all humans, and human first. That's actually one of MMC's values, is our first one. And so regardless what role you're in, what department you're in, I have to see you as a human first, and that really drives culture. within our agency. It's honestly made more of the silos. We have less silos because of that, and it's human first at the end of the day.
And I think on that point too, trust is the foundation.
Yeah.
You can't build a culture without that foundation.
Why don't we turn to the audience for a bit for a couple questions, and then we'll come back to the panel for some parting words or one more question. Right up here in front. Yeah.
Hi all, I'm Asia Hinkowski. I come from New Orleans, Louisiana. My question is, all of y'all are really established professionals, but as an audience of students, I would love to hear about what you did in your undergrad or your graduate, thank you, your graduate program that really helped you, whether that's skills you honed in on or values. Thank you.
Open it up to anybody.
You want me to start? I'll
Sure.
start. You know, similar to what you said earlier, Christy, I just said yes and tried different things. So when I was in school, you know, I took internships. They may not have been tracking with where I thought I was going to go, but I took them. And in every one, I learned something. I didn't love everything that I did, but to your point, Damon, earlier, every one of them gave me a learning experience. And then after, early in my career at Edelman, I started as an account coordinator. And what I said earlier, I just kept raising my hand to try new things. I was just telling Christy that I started the multicultural group at Edelman in 1997 because there was an interest on Advil for Hispanic marketing. And I'm like, I think there's an opportunity here. Can I do that? Yes, you can. The answer won't always be yes. Sometimes the answer will be you have to do X, Y, and Z to get there. But being brave and saying, can I, is probably a good thing to do.
I think for me, I mean, I was very engaged in student government, and running for election on campus is a great litmus test for what you're going to face in corporate America, right?
Yeah.
Because there are lots of people with lots of ideas, right? And it's an economy of ideas. And what people really need to understand is why. So you believe you've got a great idea for Advil. Tell me why, right? And it's not just about your idea, but it's about your ability to clearly and concisely communicate your point of view in a way that can be received by people who are making a decision, right? And so I recall going through college and they say, well, write this paper, write a 5-page paper. In corporate America, no one wants you to read 5 pages, right? It's 1 page. Clear, concise, and really understanding why. So if there's one thing that I'd encourage you guys to do to take away from your undergraduate careers, clear, concise communication that really answers the question why.
I will jump in here. So in college, grad school, you can get involved in the different organizations, right? It also happens in your adult life. So whether it's a professional organization, another cause in the community that you care about, if you're not getting what you need at work or you want to learn more, all of these nonprofits probably have some kind of board, some kind of committee you can join. And I was actually able to really build so many skills outside of work in these organizations. And so I would say continue that throughout your life. As I built my executive presence, presentation skills, public speaking, I presented to different boards of trustees and I wasn't quite even senior yet. So there's always an opportunity to learn and practice things. And I would say, you know, in those moments, you really start to become more successful and figure out, you know, where can I be of value? So I think as you continue to go through your career, you start to learn your own gifts and your strengths. So don't always hone in on the pieces, the areas of opportunity, but really like what do you offer and how you continue to be valuable, whether that's at work or outside of work.
Karen, anything additional? All right. Any other questions? Oh, okay, we'll go here since the microphone's here. I see in the back though.
Hi, y'all. I am Lainey. I'm a grad student at Alabama. Roll Tide, for those in the room. So, Damon, I believe you were talking about keeping communication and connection at the core of everything that you do, which resonates a lot with, I'm sure, all of us in the room. But Lisa, specifically for you, in your role from being very client-facing now into people, what did that look like on both sides? And is there any advice now in your more people role that you would give to yourself in a client-facing role?
That's an awesome question. So first of all, when I was asked about this people role, I was, you know, a little shocked. So back to your question earlier, Jeff, about why say yes. I took a chance, but I always loved the culture part of it. And I do think there's so much more connection between the business and the people side of the house. And my goal when I came into this role was to make sure to make that merge more, because there's so much benefit and gold, really, in understanding the business and helping on the people side. The people are our currency. The people of our business are our currency. We say we're client-centric, which is one of the most important things to do. If I'm working with Damon's company, I have to be client-centric. But it's the people who will deliver that. And so bringing that together is really unbelievably important. I think now in the people side, I have such a great appreciation for staffing and casting and how people get shifted around. The feedback piece has come to me, and it's been enlightening in the past year in this job, how important this is, and how in the business side, sometimes we just move so quickly into the next thing. We don't stop and take the time for that. And so, on the people side, sometimes you're assigned with being the culture carriers, but the reality is everybody's a culture carrier.
Yeah.
Everybody. And the more that we share with one another, and the more that we bring things together, the better we are.
I have a question in the back.
I'm Maria. I'm a junior at Lewis University, and my question for everyone is, in your positions now, and even as you continue to move up, in what ways do you continue to learn and take those lessons with you?
Anyone want to start?
I'll start. I don't think we have a choice but being open to learning. Look how fast everything around us is changing. I think about AI, I think about everything that's going on in technology. So I think we have to be open to new ways of doing things. You talked about that on the panel prior. What got us where we are today is not going to get us where we're going tomorrow. So the openness to learn from one another, the openness for senior leaders to learn from the junior leaders and spend time learning. You all are getting your information in a completely different way than I did. And so how is that? And how am I going to learn about that? I'm going to shadow people. I'm going to spend time with people. But I think the most important thing is being open to change.
And I just think part of it's understanding what your role as a leader is. We have an organization of 623 communicators around the world. Most of those people are better qualified to do their job than I am qualified to do their job. So when I go in for a business review, my job is not to tell them how they can do their job better. My job is to understand the barriers they have, the resources that they need, the environment that they're operating in, so that I can create the systems so that they can be successful, right? It's not to do their job better, right? So as you go into that type of an environment, you're going to work in an environment not just with other communications people, but with marketing people and products research people and whatever the functions is. And you should spend an equal amount of time telling them how they can help you and understanding how you can help them, right? Because it's really about how systems work together. So that's what I spend a lot of my time understanding. How do the financials of the company work? So I can figure out how do we communicate better, right? How do consumers make decisions better so that I can market to them better, right? And so going in and really just trying to understand how the system works, how the company works, how the machine works, helps make me a better communicator.
Yeah, I'll just add that I am a news junkie, so I like to keep up with what's happening in the industry. I subscribe to all the things, so it could be seeing what Damon said earlier, just about checking out the gossip blog sometimes, because there's a lot of conversations happening in those comments, or even reading traditional media like New York Times or Washington Post. Within our own industry, there's a lot of different publications. So I always just stay curious, and I think you have to get really great at asking the right questions too. So just continue to discern things and pay attention to what's happening in the industry. I think listening, I didn't learn until a little bit later on, but the earnings calls, there's so much information there. And if you're not listening in, you're going to be behind on what's happening within your own company. But yeah, subscribe to the industry publications if you're not already. And I love having informational interviews. You shouldn't go into anything just thinking you want to get something out of it. If you're always staying curious, then there's always going to be something to learn. So I adapt that as like a lifelong journey for myself. I like having conversations with people, and I'm always staying curious.
Lisa, did you ever answer the question what advice you would give your your client sides, yeah.
Yeah, it's to have a great appreciation for what goes into the staffing and the casting and what goes into the motivating and inspiring of the people. Because I think on the business side, sometimes we're just moving so fast and so trying to like tackle this particular assignment, this particular ask, that we don't take the time to really think about what goes into it and how are we grooming these people with opportunities and also delivering for our clients the best way we can with the best possible capability.
So as my job moderator, I have to keep the train on the track. And it's train on the track time. So I'm going to do a little bit power round here for our last question. Karen, I'm going to start with you. What advice would you give those in the room who may not feel like a leader yet, but want to make an immediate impact today?
This probably won't surprise you. Never stop learning. And you guys have all been talking about listening up and down and all that kind of thing. I always tried to get my students to think about trying new things. So I took them to a UGA women's volleyball match. I took them to the University of Georgia virtual reality lab. Had nothing to do with their campaigns client. And I didn't expect them to learn anything that would help with their campaigns client. I wanted them to learn to think differently. And the only way you can do that is by trying new things. So Saturday I'm going to a quilt show. I know nothing about quilts, but I think I'll learn something new. And so it's worth doing. So I encourage all of you to just get outside your comfort zone and try things you've never tried before. And you may not see a direct impact on how you think, but later on it might influence something.
Damon?
You're paid to have a point of view. If all you do at work is to transact, connect the dots, move something a little bit forward, you're not going to be in that job very long. When you look at how AI is transforming our industry, you look at how consumers are getting information, how media is fundamentally working, it's not just a matter of putting the block from here and moving it to there. It's fundamentally about integrating multiple points of view and then having your own informed point of view about what you think is right for your business, your organization, your client, your principal, whatever it is. So think of yourself as always in a meeting saying, if they ask me what we should do, what might I say? And the more you can always have that point of view in your mind, again, with the right why, you're going to become a well-informed business or organization leader with a specialist in communications. But the world of communications is one part of a much bigger part of an ecosystem. So have a point of view about what you believe your organization should be doing and the role that you can have impact on that, and you will see an accelerated route to impact.
Celebrate small wins. I think we're always looking for the big thing to be proud of. The small wins along the way are going to get you to that leadership role tomorrow.
Very simple. Just be proactive and just be visible. I think I'm going to get really, really tactical, but for me, I'm always, again, just always observing. And so if my direct manager, I'm sensing that he or she is stressed about something or they've got too much on their plate, I've just asked, can I help you with taking that on? And the more visible and the more that I kept doing that, all of a sudden my name was being brought up for opportunities that I never even thought of. And so that helped to elevate me pretty quickly because I would, again, discern, make observations, and just raise my hand for opportunities because I was being proactive and asking for that. And then the leadership roles followed.
Yeah, and I think it was said too on the previous panel, some of the greatest impact you can make is really learning about yourself and understanding yourself before you step into a leadership role. That is an immediate impact you can make tomorrow, is starting to work on yourself so that then you understand how to interact with others. And I know it was said on the previous panel, but to me, it took me a while to get to doing that work on myself before I could even understand how to be a better leader or turn into a leader. So with that, thank you, Christy, Lisa, Damon, Karen, and Linda. Let's give them a round of applause.
Thank you.
Let's give them another round of applause as they leave the stage, y'all. All right. So we have one more conversation, but I promise we'll be quick. What is getting ready to happen is we are going to bring up some special folks to back up to the stage to really talk about tonight. Tonight is, I think you all heard us talk about, we're celebrating these wonderful folks who spoke with you all today in their journey and their contributions to mentorship. And yes, we are going to be celebrating them. But on top of that, we're also going to be, you're going to have an opportunity to see other people in the industry from different agencies and different companies to be here as well. And so when Grant and myself was talking about this event, and talking about this summit in particular, we wanted to sit down and have a very intentional conversation to really prepare you all for what's going to happen tonight. And so with that, I'm going to bring up my colleague, my partner, Grant Deity, and some of our colleagues from the Emerging Leaders Committee, and they are going to have just a fireside chat, have your questions, but really have a conversation with you all so you really feel prepared. You have any questions you have about the evening, they're going to really talk you through to make sure you all are as comfortable as possible, but most importantly, take full advantage of the evening as well, okay? So with that, I'm going to hand over this mic to...
Grant's wearing
yeah,
one.
I think all the mics should be on. All the lives are going to come on. And we should be good to go.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Great.
No, this is not working.
Is this working?
That's
Okay,
right.
this
We'll
one
just
works.
use that. We'll use that.
Okay.
Let's give them a round of applause, guys.
Okay, you guys. Hello? Is this working?
Hello? 1, 2, 3.
Okay, you guys, this is the big finish, okay? First of all, like, really great couple hours of, I hope you think, content and programming here. But now is, like, we're very close to the big moment for all of you. There will be certain, like, times in your career where you will realize, like, this is potentially a defining moment. Tonight is a night for all of you. I'll tell a quick story. I remember several years ago now, walking into the Goodyear Tire Company in Akron, Ohio for a pitch, a new business pitch. I remember stopping the team as we were walking in and saying, at some point, like 100 years ago, somebody in this building had the idea to build a blimp and let's fly it over big football games and things like that to build brand recognition. Pretty damn good idea, right? 100 years later, still iconic. Today, the people at Goodyear are going to listen to us. Like, this is a big moment for us, for the agency. Realized it, we went in, we won that pitch, okay? Tonight is one of those nights for you. Even if you are introverted or a little bit shy, tonight is not the night, okay? Look at us on the stage and all the other people that have been up here today and the other leaders and mentors around this room. If you are having any trouble tonight navigating that room, you find us and we will help you find your way, okay? But that room tonight is going to be filled with people who can open doors, create opportunities, inform, inspire you, not just now, but throughout your careers. So make the most of it, okay? Look at the name tags, find people, and just really get yourselves pumped up for this cocktail hour that's going to start at 5:30-ish. You'll have an entire hour to kind of work that room. And then at dinner, a lot of you are going to be seated, amongst this group. I will just get yourselves pumped up for that tonight because it can be a very big moment for you. There are several people that work at Zeno that I met at this event that were just very proactive in terms of coming up, introducing themselves to me, following up afterwards, do that tonight with me, my colleagues, everybody else that you've talked to, or if you've looked at the attendee list tonight, okay? So I'll turn it over to, I think Sunny is going to talk next.
Yes, hi, I'm Sunny Franks Miller. I am Senior Manager of Corporate Communications at Clarios. We power 1 in 3 cars on the road worldwide. We make car batteries. But what I'm really here to talk to you about is my true passion, which is networking. Woo! I know. So I, approximately 10 years ago tonight, attended my first Milestones in Mentoring event in your shoes as a student. I was a sophomore in college. I did not know anyone, but I was very enthusiastic. And that's the same enthusiasm I hope to feel from all of you tonight. And I am very proud to say that every single job I've ever had since that night was a direct result of the Plank Center. Plank board members have recommended me for every job I've ever had since. And I've had quite a few. So I want to reiterate what Grant said about the importance and value of opportunities like this one here today, and even more so this evening, and impart a few quick tips. Before we get to the quick tips, Facundo, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, thank you, Sonny. Hi, everyone. My name is Facundo Luque. I'm from Argentina, by the way. I live there. I'm working in EY. I'm in the tax quality and risk management area. I do the communications and the teams management there. And I'm really happy to be here. Now we will be going with the tips. But let me tell you this little thing, which is that first time that I was here in US, I came alone. I was representing my country, and I have one goal in mind, which is generating relations. Do not forget that public relations, don't forget the last part, relations, you know. So now let's go with the tips.
Grant, do you want to kick us off?
I mean, I think you guys have got us going
Okay.
here now.
So I would
yeah.
say we'll bounce back and forth. We have about 6 tips. Number 1, do your research. You have a little break in between these 2 sessions. If there is someone that caught your eye on stage today, or someone that you know is going to be attending this evening, do a light search on them. And I'm here to tell you, networking is only creepy if you make it creepy, okay? There is a limited amount of time that you have when you walk up to someone to get to know them and help find that common ground that will be the basis on that relationship for potentially the rest of your career. You don't want to spend that time asking questions and feeling around for something you might have in common if a little bit of research done ahead of time could have already found that thing that you have in common, so you can ask that question first. So you don't need to ask like, oh, where did you go to school, only for them to name a school you've never heard of, if their LinkedIn has already told you that they're really passionate about animals and are on the board of the ASPCA or whatever. You can then lead with the fact that you are also really passionate about animals and that you're really excited to talk to them about that a little bit more, or whatever common thing you might have. Facundo, what's the next tip?
I just want to remember one thing about this. What is the first thing that we do in a communication plan? Research, right? This is the same. I mean, it's the same process. You know, if you do the research, then you can do the next step. In this case, is connection. You know, I always try to remember this in terms of research, connection. If you have the insight, if you know the person, if you are prepared, let's remember that. You can create that connection. After you have this connection, you know, you need to remember that you need to later, and this is important, maintain this relationship. You know, it's, I think, easy to generate a lot of contacts in this kind of events, but the challenging aspect is after the event. Do not forget about that, and this is quality over quantity. I remember, and I will take 2 seconds with this. My story, first time coming here, everyone, when I come back to my country, they were like, how many contacts you got, Facu? You 50, 40, how many business cards? Now it's everything with a QR code. Now, you know, now business cards. And I was like, 3, 4? And they were like, too slow, Facu, too slow. And I was like, no, because I met 2 or 3 people, but those 2 or 3 people, they were really the people that I wanted to connect. I really made sure to create a relationship with them. And at the end, the crazy thing is that gave me opportunities later to work, to generate projects. It was really good.
How do you build that relationship coming out of tonight? Something that you're all probably going to do is ask for business cards, or maybe you brought your own business cards. You're going to exchange contact information, and that is so good and so important. But it is on each of you to take that first step to follow up and connect. Lots of people in this room tonight are going to receive a lot of business cards. They're going to have had a lot of conversations. They probably just came from a busy day of work. It is up to you to ensure that you follow up. Handing a business card to someone and expecting them to reach out to you is really putting a lot of faith and trust in their hands and the fact that their pockets don't have holes in them. And if you want to own your future, the best thing for you to do is follow up with them, because let's be real, it's not actually that hard to find people online these days, even if you don't get a business card from them. Reach out proactively on LinkedIn, reach out take it upon yourself to follow up on the conversation. And also, oh, go ahead.
I do have just a quick follow-up in terms of a story about like what I thought was a master class in follow-up.
Will you hold the mic closer?
Many years ago, I did an informational interview as a favor to a friend with a girl who I think at the time was, I think she was a first semester senior at Notre Dame. Came to see me probably like around her holiday break, getting ready to go back for her senior year. I said, as we were closing the interview, I said to her, when you go back to school, I'm gonna give you an assignment. Every Friday, just send me something interesting that's happening on campus that's catching your eye from a marketing perspective or a trend, whatever, to keep me plugged into like what's happening with young people on a college campus. I'm not kidding you guys. Every Friday at 4 o'clock, she must have put it in her calendar. I got an email, and it was, Dear Grant, I was walking across campus today, and I noticed Red Bull was doing an activation, and she would tell me about that activation. Dear Grant, I'm noticing a lot of girls on campus wearing jean jackets. This must be a trend. I mean, like, every Friday, it was something interesting, sometimes silly, but man, did she follow up. At the end of her senior year, she applied for the internship. I said, no internship, hire her. She's coming to Zeno. And she did. She was with us for a really long time. Now she's got 2 kids, and I don't think she works anymore.
And you know that girl was racking her brain each week being like, jean jackets, yes, okay. But that really reminds us all that you have so much to offer as consumers, as voices of future generations of both employees, consumers, and just general, like as people. And so do not feel, while it can be intimidating to walk up to someone, you have so much to offer them just because of your youth, your diverse backgrounds. There is so much to be gained from that interaction on like the old white guy side of it, you know? Like the people who are a little bit more, sorry Grant, but the people who are a little bit more experienced in their careers, they are looking for the jean jacket reports from people like you. So know that as you walk up to them and be confident in that. What's our next tip, Facundo?
As a kind of summary, or at least, what I want to mention before the summary, actually, because just came to my mind, which is be yourself. This is maybe like the basics. But in this kind of connections, you need to show yourself and show what are you looking for, even if you don't know what are you looking for. I had plenty of conversations in where maybe the first thing that the student or that person who is maybe coming to me in terms of networking says, I'm not sure where to go. I mean, I don't know the market, I don't know. I mean, but can you help me? That could be a really big opener in terms of conversation. I'm looking for your advice, Maybe I don't know where to go, but you can lead me. I'm not looking for a shop. Maybe I just want to connect with you. You need to also think that this is only the first point in the relationship. This is only the start. And then you will be building this through the time. So now I think as a summary, I'm not sure how many time we have, but I always try to remember this to myself, which is research, connect, maintain. 3 words, research, connect, maintain. If any of these things are not in this networking process, there will be failure, because maybe I will not get the connection. Maybe you will meet a lot of people, but after the event, we will be like, I know, what did I get from this? And it's really important what Sonny was saying in terms of, I think, how you introduce yourself to that person. Let's also remember about the personal branding aspect of everything, At some point, when I talk about myself, I see myself as the product, and I do the public relations of myself. That's the priority number 1, the PR of yourself and how you manage this through this kind of events and every time that you do networking.
One thing that I'll close on, a reminder that you always I don't know if anyone's taken a sales class, but one of the big things that they teach you there is always be selling and always be closing. In this conversation, in these conversations tonight, end with an ask, but don't make the ask, will you give me a job? because it is very difficult for someone who met you 4 minutes ago at this event and is meeting a lot of people to be like, hell yeah, I'll give you a job. They might not have a job to give in this moment. They don't really know you yet. But it's very easy to agree to a 30-minute virtual coffee chat. So make sure that you are ending with the ask. Ask for what it is that you want, which is a relationship, right? And that's not going to be built immediately by offering a job, but it will be built by the promise of continuing the conversation later. And then you follow up to ensure that you actually get that coffee chat scheduled.
And in terms of tonight, like who's going to be in the room, you guys, like every big agency is going to be there tonight, right? Start doing that inventory in your head. Edelman, Weber, Golan, Ketchum, MSL, Zeno, go down the list. They're all going to be in the room tonight. Find these people and ask them questions. Fleischman Hiller, Jason Belinky, one of their big shots sitting right here in front of me. And then from like a client side, I know Hyatt Hotels, McDonald's, Ally Bank, obviously P&G, Southwest Airlines. It's going to be like a who's who. Like look at those name tags, find the people that you want to connect with, and be really confident in terms of approach them. They all know the drill too. They know what they are here for tonight, and it is to meet young talent like all of you. So let's make the most of it.
Let's go.
That's it, yep.
And now I believe we're welcoming our closing remarks to the stage. Is that right, Eric? Oh no, this is the closing remarks. And on that note, go do some research.
Do some research. You got 30 minutes, you guys, until the cocktail hour starts.
Sorry, I called you an old white guy.
That's okay.
Yeah, good job. See you.
Can I get a photo on stage? Nice to meet you.
Like a photo on stage?
Yeah, I would. Let's do it.
That's
I'll get
terrific.
a free outfit.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. It's a great program. I'm already.
Oh, okay, good. We got the Edelman event?
Yeah, that's good. No, I'm waiting you now.
Yeah.
Like this?